It is 5:30. Call this meeting to order. If you all join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you. And Shelley, as I was just saying before, as we were walking in, if everybody could introduce themselves today, because I know we have people online, and just something we should do before going forward, we'll have these year meetings. So please introduce yourself to the online.
Shelley Andrews, Charlestown rep.
Kevin Keith, Langdon rep.
Joe Levesque, Alstead rep.
Sarah Vogel, Ackworth rep.
Alyssa Bascom at large.
Misty Bushy, board clerk.
Deb Manso, interim superintendent.
And Lori Schmidt, business administrator.
And with us, we have,
Chris Young, school principal at Charlestown Primary School.
thank you. Do we have Jamie or Jenny online? Okay, not yet. Thank you. So our first order of business is the approval of minutes from September 23rd, October 15th, October 26th, October 28th, both public and non-public session. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second.
Any discussion or changes on any of those minutes? All right, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Did you have anything you wanted to say during public comment? All right, thank you. All right, then I will turn this over to Deb Manso.
All right, good evening, everyone. It's been a very busy few weeks with polishing up the budget, looking at policies, and visiting schools. I was able to take another school off the list, but I still have Sarah Porter, which I couldn't visit because of, well, I could, but I didn't visit because of substitutes being in the building. I also attended the CTE meeting that was in Keene. That was very interesting. So they reported certainly on their programs, but they reported on programs that, for example, their electrician program has had so many applicants that they have like 100 applicants, and they've only been able to take, I think, 25. So working with some of that information, I met with Deb Connell, our CTE director, and Sarah, our high school principal, and we discussed the possibility of growing CTE programs for our kids. So we came up with 5 possibilities, one being electrician, because if they have a program full, we should be able to create that program here and invite students who were not able to get into the program in Keene. So what Deb Connell is doing is writing kid-friendly descriptions of what those programs look like. Then Sarah is going to send out those descriptions to kids to look over and see what the interest is. So we're going to kind of start there, but we really feel like even for next year, we can grow the program. Maybe not 5 programs, but certainly 2 or 3 and do it pretty economically. So that's really been it. Everybody is working hard and very focused on moving the district forward and doing the right thing for kids.
Can I ask you a question about CTE? So we also have a partnership with Springfield.
Right.
And I know if Keene offers it, we don't get to send our kids to Springfield. Is this an opportunity for us to build that relationship and say, okay, you can't take all of our kids and let them go in either direction?
That's my goal.
Okay.
So I will be going over to visit Springfield one of these mornings as well and start those conversations. We do have an agreement that we need Matt Upton to read over, and I want to see how we can work it in so we can do some of the things that you're talking about. So it's a bit of a process, but Sarah certainly understands the importance of opening up courses for kids. So we're just gonna do it. And we'll report as we go.
Yes, Ken.
Is this a proper forum to give an update on the kids and the bus driver?
I think we can, as long as we probably can tell you more when we go into non-public about condition
Okay,
of people, but we can talk about the bus a little bit, which I think you were gonna talk about.
So we have found a replacement, vehicle already. They're working on getting it lettered up and, converting it so it will, I think, facilitate 2 wheelchairs, because the bus that was involved, it was our 2 wheelchair bus. So we do have that, in the works. It's about $13,000. It's used, it's in great condition. And so I'm going to go ahead and pay for that outright, and then, we'll get insurance reimbursement, I'm sure. So, there's that piece. I actually took a phone call this morning from the other, adjuster, and so the insurance companies have connected. We're waiting for the go-ahead to be able to strip any usable parts from our, existing bus. The mechanic is eagerly waiting for that, because it's gonna look like a New York City street scene when he's done, because he's gonna strip everything out of that. So, it's interesting. I learned that, seatbelts are designed for a single use and they get cut out afterwards. Seats, one accident, they're trashed. So it's been an opportunity to work on developing some procedures. We've been very fortunate to have Dan on our group, on our team. And so he's bringing some experience that he had with first student to us, so we can. Dan is the mechanic. Yes, sorry. Yeah. So we have documents in place. We're gonna have go bags in place and better plan for how to appropriately react. Timing it, I should say.
From everything I heard, it actually was a good response. So kudos to all of you who were right on it.
Can I ask a question? Going back to CTE. Last year, we were in the process of redoing the contract with CTE. And that got put off because we didn't have everything wasn't, there were lots of fingers pointed as to why things didn't get done, but it didn't get done. And it got put off to be done this year. And one of the things that I was hoping would be part of the kind of negotiation within that recontract is the whole concept of having a little bit more leeway to work with kids having choice.
Yeah.
That's, I don't want that to sit again so that it gets put off again for another year. It's just important to stay on that because, I think there's a little bit of dragging of feet on Keene's part because they know that as long as we don't have that, then we stay with the old one, which says that the kids don't have choice.
And you're meaning choice to go to Springfield. Yeah. Okay.
Well, Springfield or, Claremont or, one of the Sugar River, I mean, the potential of kids, a lot of the kids that are juniors and seniors can drive. And so they could go, if there was something that was offered in Claremont, they might decide that they want to do that. If they live in North Charlestown, they might decide that they want to do that and then just drive home at the end of the day. So, or go there first thing so that they don't have to drive all the way here, go out, and all that kind of stuff.
Are there any other questions for Deb at this time? All right.
So just start with the financial report. It's been out there for a little while. I don't know if there are any, questions on it. Um,
This,
Yes,
I have it's an unrelated question to this, but it comes up later during some of our non-publics. Do you have any idea how much of money that we receive comes from the federal government?
a good portion of it, well, federal. So that's our special revenue funds and our food funds. So I think we have that budgeted at about 2.3 million, I think.
And part of our state aid is federal funds coming in
So the
too.
Medicaid is, and that amount is decreasing. And then we have E-rate monies that are federal, and that can vary each year. So if you're talking about our federal funds that pass through, they come through the special revenue fund.
Either directly to us or through the state to
Yeah,
us.
and that's through the special revenue because it's our title grants. And
Rough
That's-
estimate,
it's about 2.3 million, I think, is what we have budgeted, that we carry year to year. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the budget. I have just a brief overview here for you. The budget that was handed out is our version 1.2. We had another version in our admin team that we were working with. It is an increase over our 24-25 budget by 246,000, and it's at 0.71%. So this graph just shows a breakdown, instruction as it should be is the biggest bulk of our budget. It's about 62%. And I looked at this from functionality versus our object codes. Our support services are running just under 13%. Our administration, and that includes building administration, central office, finance services board, all of those buckets, runs just under 9.5%. And our plant services is over 10, transportation is under 5, and then we have our food service transfer. I want to talk about our process this year. Our process this year has been very different than what we've experienced here at Fall Mountain. We began with a zero-based budget approach. Through the process, I think, Chris, is it fair to say it was learning for everyone?
Yes.
It was insightful. To guide us through this, I prepared written guidance, which was included in the budget binders. It was pretty substantial, I think, but it's still going to be a work in progress for next year. We will already need to start looking at what we need to do to refine it. Some of the changes that occurred this year is that the steps and focus programs were moved to individual functions instead of being blended in with the rest of special ed. We are using the federal regulations and guidance for defining our equipment. We're not saying that a chair is a piece of equipment unless it's a chair that costs more than $5,000, then it would show up in the equipment line. Otherwise, we have like a $200 item hanging out in this equipment line. It's not depreciable. It's not really equipment. So we use that $5,000 threshold. So when you're looking through the documentation, you'll see that our equipment lines really decreased and our supply lines increased. And I think that before I gave an example of our technology, we have about $70,000 worth of technology that went from equipment into the supply line. Those devices, our Chromebooks individually, are not don't meet the threshold for being defined as equipment. So that was an adjustment for everyone, but we're working towards that. We are using a justification form, which is, and process, which is new to the district. And so I will show you an example later in this presentation on what that looks like. And then if you so desire, we can go through all of them if you wanted, once you see how it's working. But if you wanted a new position, the links to is that,
Yeah,
if you-
you dim before they
Okay.
turn all the way on.
all right, so if you were requesting a new position, new equipment, new program, all of that information needed to be presented on a justification request. And when this justification request is completed, it was then reviewed by the administration team as a whole. So we all discussed it and vetted each of these justification requests. Some of them made it beyond that room to this discussion to be presented to you for your input, and there were a few things that didn't. So that was a new process. In your binder, if there was a justification request within a building, it is in the binder, that tab in that section. We talked about gross up budgeting. So for our E-rate benefits, that's revenue coming in and it helps offset the cost of technology purchasing. But we need to show the full cost of the purchases because we're not guaranteed that the revenue is going to come in, and revenue is revenue. It's not expense. They have separate homes. So that was a new concept and something that we worked through within this budget process. We were very deliberate about reviewing software to try to ensure that we weren't, to ensure that we were using buying power and using things efficiently. And that what that also did is it was a learning guide, if you will, for some other, like one building's using one thing and another isn't. And well, what does that do for you? And maybe it's more efficient for us to use instead of this other product. That again will be an ongoing discussion, but we were able to get all of our software and a comprehensive list of what we're using into the budget. Field trip costs, historically, we've just kind of thrown a number in, I think the principals have some, idea, but it's, the costs where we have our own transportation, they're made up really of labor costs and mileage. I'll give kudos to bookkeeper for the high school. She had a really nice spreadsheet that the high school was using, that we tweaked it just a little bit more and talked with Art and, okay, well, when we're doing a field trip, we can estimate the time, the travel time, but then what's the wait time? We need to factor that into the cost too for labor. So we use that type of information in detail to build those lines. We still have work to do in the athletic transportation lines. So there was, maybe a little bit of the same old with that. But we'll get there. I want to break it down by seasons and I don't know if we can get it down to team as well, but trying to get some detail because again, our goal was transparency. So that's just some information about the process and how it changed this year. I don't know if you have any questions. If not, I'll move on. All right. So when we're looking at the budget and our salaries and benefits, our teacher increase is per our collective bargaining agreement, which is a 2.5% cost of living increase and a 2.5% increase between steps. Our support staff is, the contract ends this year, so we're negotiating that at this time, and that will be a separate warrant article. And so what that does is it freezes everybody in the budget. There's no movement, because that would come in the separate warrant article. Non-union personnel, we've proposed a 4% increase. We are eliminating one teaching position and we're able to do this through attrition. It was special education numbers are decreasing in that attendance area. So it could be substantiated. And again, their there's some attrition going on, so we're not cutting people, we're just eliminating the position.
Can you just give us a little more information about that? What? It's hard to hear special ed positions are going away because I know we need them in so many places. So,
in the Walpole attendance area, they were really, scrutinizing the trend and what the expectations are and where our students are at this time. And, the need, is decreasing. So it was a conversation with Sandra and.
Yeah, and if I could add to that. So, I talked with Justin about this as well. What they're seeing is the number of students that are receiving services through special education has dropped. And dropped to the point where they don't need that additional special education person. So there was a lot of conversation with Justin, with Sandra, to make sure that we were that's the support was there for kids, and he felt that clearly it could still be without that person.
fantastic. Thank you.
So we are with Health Trust, and they've changed their process this year. So instead of giving us a gross maximum rate increase, they gave us a rate increase. But what they did in the past, they've given us a singular rate increase, and we offer different plans, and it just applied across the board. This year, they looked at each plan and the usage of each plan and claims and such. And so our increase is ranging from 4.8% up to 10.5%, depending upon the plan. So we have 3 different rate increases. This is really much lower than any increase that we've been seeing over the last few years. So that's built into the budget as well. And what we did is we looked at what an individual subscription is now, and that's what was applied for the following year, and the appropriate rate increase was built in. New Hampshire Retirement changes their rates every 2 years, and so this is 2026 is the first year of the next cycle. And they decreased rates by 0.41% for teachers and by 0.78% for what they deem as employees. So anyone that's not a teacher doesn't meet that teacher category. The vacancies, and so I think, Kevin, you raised a question about what are vacancies in the budget. If we have somebody who we anticipate retiring, we change that to an anticipated vacancy. And we said that the position is costed out at a master's step 7 for teachers. And if it's support staff, it's at step 6 for whatever category they are in. And we assumed there would be a subscription to a 2-person insurance. We thought that was safer than budgeting for a single and somebody going to a family. And it was more conservative than budgeting for families for each. So any of our vacant positions now that we haven't been able to fill, they're also shown in the budget as vacancy, and the value of the position has been updated to reflect this assumption. Within the budget, we have 24 lane changes that were requested and are accommodated in the budget. And we have 4 retirements, which actually one of them will be a sick day buyout, and the other 3. Some of them, I think, qualify for retirement benefits, but not all of them do. But so those are the changes in positions that we have in teaching staff.
So just a lane change, so someone goes from bachelor's to bachelor or bachelor's plus 30 or whatever, right?
Yes, yes. I think we have 1 or 2 that are actually jumping a couple of lanes, but. Anyway, and this is all based on everyone who met the submission deadline for November 1st. Okay. All right, some other notable changes. There was a reduction in out-of-district costs. Xandra monitors that very carefully each year and adjusts it accordingly. We had increased it for this year based on some expectations that have there's a change between this year and next year, so I don't know if they didn't come to fruition this year, but for whatever reason that Alexandra has proposed a decrease there. We have an insurance savings, as you recall, we moved to Primex, and so there was a couple savings there. It looks a little bit odd when you're looking year to year because we can't allocate it in the same manner as the methods prescribed because Primex doesn't isolate library liability expense for like the board or whatever. So there's a little bit of difference there, but overall it's still a cost savings. Bond payments going away. So there's a decrease there.
Going away or went away?
It went away. Yeah,
Okay.
this is the last year. As you will recall, we used surplus funds last year to outright buy and purchase 2 buses. So you'll see in transportation right now, we have a reduction of almost 100 grand between last year to this year, and that's pretty much the buses. Because then we were able to absorb other changes in there. Transfers to food service, there is an increase from 110 to, I believe it's 150,000. The budget each year has been going up. We provide our free breakfast each year. If that's something that we want to change, that could impact the transfer. I find that with the free breakfast, we have a higher participation rate with lunches as well. But then we are also, we have some collection issues with our lunches, and it was hopefully with our meal charging policy, we'll be able to address that. And that also needs to be covered through the general fund. So that's the reason for that increase. If you will recall, last year in our budget, we had vacancy management of about 250,000, I believe. That is not included in this budget. Again, we worked from a zero-based concept, so we feel like we've addressed that already. We cleaned up positions, and what we have in the budget is what we have for positions. We included money for substitutes because that was inadvertently removed last year for this year. There's now money, there's about I think 230 or 260,000 in there for substitutes across the board, allocated by building. You know, we can propose budget changes if we need it in a different function within a building. But we've spread that out, and so it's not just the custodial staff and the transportation that have funds for substitutes. All right, what we still need to work on is that we're still working on finalizing the projections for the CTE tuitions, and we need to add that to the budget. So that's gonna be another 200 grand easily. This is an area that in the past, it's been gross budgeting has not occurred. So the revenue that we would receive has been netted against that when the tuition rates have been provided. Or tuition counts, and so that will not be the case this year, so there'll be a bump there. I somehow missed your stipends. So that needs to get put into the budget. And that was not intentional. I was so focused on the positions that had benefits related to it, because sometimes the software will pull multiple lines of benefits for a single position. So I was really scrutinizing that and just missed those. I think at our last meeting, the board approved a part-time secretarial support for the special education department. That needs to be added in. It was an unbudgeted position that was approved, so then that's needs to move forward into this next budget. I think she discussed at that time it was an ongoing thing. We have a life insurance benefit that for some reason the system didn't automatically calculate that, and I missed it, so I need to add that in. That's a smaller amount, I think. The English as a second language, if you'll recall, last year there was a lot of discussion about moving it out of the high school and into another method. And It got put into method 6 this year in the budget, but when I went back and looked at last year, it was in method 1. So I do need to put it into method 1, and I'll deactivate the method 6 accounts, so they shouldn't show up as being visible and available for use. We do have an additional 1.5 positions that we are now aware of that we could also eliminate, and again, there would be some shifting. We have some other open positions that we're encouraging people to apply for, and so we can, I don't think it's going to impact people unless they so choose. I need to review method 2 activity and adjust that accordingly. There's always discussion as to who's responsible for what. And I thought each building was taking a third of something, or like putting budgets in, and there was just miscommunication there. So we need to clean that up. The coaching positions and everything that would go through the matrix, the stipend matrix, they are included in this budget. But I think supplies and textbooks are not. You have a question?
I thought actually that method 2 was the one we didn't ever have to think about because it was fairly cut and dry. So I'm just interested to see what it really looks like.
Well, again, we approached it from a zero base, so we weren't just carrying numbers forward, so. Well, you know, there are some gaps. So I reached out to the principals today about that, and we'll get that taken care of. We will continue to evaluate our programming, our student, our special ed programming to see if there are needs. As you know, things can change on a dime, so between now and when we have a final budget going to budget hearing, changes could occur one way or the other, so but we're presenting where we're reflecting our current snapshot. And then, again, I'm gonna go back to the justification requests, because those requests are not included in the budget. Again, we're trying to focus on a zero-based budget and transparency and choice. So we didn't want to just build something into the budget. We were seeking your input. And then we would expect that the budget would also provide input. So if you will humor me, I'm gonna go through one of these, if I get along with the computer. So this is our summary of the additions that were requested through the justification process. So you can see that the summary of the total of these requests you probably can't see there. It's $353,324.36. These are the justification requests that made it through our administrative team review and discussion, and that we all agreed that there was merit is light. It was a reasonable request. So what I want to do is I want to jump to the student services position first. Maybe. How do I get there? It's going, oh, okay. I think it did, because it was asking me to verify. No, Brandon, can you help with that? Or?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So we have a Google form that the staff can enter data in to, and they, provide the location, what it's about, what's the financial impact, is it a safety matter, is it related to instruction, what's the justification for the position, what account source would it be? All right. So I need to go in and give you permission.
there a reason why that smart board is stuck way back there?
I'm sorry about this. I'm not seeing the request, Brendan, so good question.
While we're doing this,
Yeah,
our
King
next
meeting.
board meeting is a joint board meeting with the budget committee
Monday night, yeah.
next Monday.
Yeah.
Okay. So will you be going through this again with them, or is this?
So I would like, I intend to have a comprehensive, presentation to start the meeting with, if you'll humor me. I was realizing today that, while we're light years ahead of where we were last year, it's still been a little bit maybe clunky and awkward because we haven't had that discussion and that like presentation. Here it all is. So, okay, so student services. All right, so now you can see the justification form. So is it a new or expanded budget item? It's new, and it's new because we had eliminated the position for this year. We were funding, I think, student services through ESSER. Position was eliminated, and it's just as our numbers grow, it's it's just difficult to manage. Xandra has put in this request. It will be a recurring expense. It's not a one-time expenditure. Is it safety related? She's deemed that no, it's not safety related. Is it instruction related? Yes, it is. So as we work on this process, we would have a dollar value in there for the budgetary impact. When I costed it out, I have it at $122,959.28. That is based on what we have, the current open position costed out at as well. So that's what we're expecting or what we're proposing. And then it'll be funded through method 6 in the general budget. Okay. So what we're proposing is a 210-day position, 40 hours a week. And is it required by law? She's saying, yes, it is required by law because we have to provide these services to the students. So then, as we go down further, there's the justification. She's talking about why she's wanting to reinstate the third position. And it's due to the intensity of the special education needs across the district. We have 292 students that are identified with IEPs, and we have additional 12 students with special education needs enrolled in Fall Mountain that reside in surrounding communities. So she talks about the number of meetings that ends up being. And each meeting lasts approximately 45 to 60 minutes. And the student service coordinators mentor and support all the special education teachers across the district. So she goes through this justification for it. And as I said, the administration, we all reviewed this, discussed it, and we said, yes, we think that this is a value added and that we should put this forward to the board for recommendation or, for choice, tell us what to do. So she's also talking about what will be the impact if we don't do this. She feels that there's going to be a significant negative impact on the department. The teachers, especially new teachers, will not receive guidance and support they're required to do their job well, and the district will be at a greater risk of engaging in procedural errors and violations of state and federal guidelines. Staff burnout will be an issue, resulting in more staff turnover with the possibility of unfilled positions. So that's our justification for our request to add this position. So what I didn't do, when we have columns down here, or boxes for SAU, are we approving it or denying it, and what was the date? School board the same, and budget committee the same. So I have failed to go through and note when the administration reviewed it, but we did review it, we approved it. Here it is for you to consider. So I don't know if you want to talk about it now, or if you have any interest in, if you feel like you have had enough information, because the justifications were in the binder. I don't know if you have enough information that you want to go through each of these items and talk about it, or you wanting to wait and do that on Monday.
Okay,
I feel like now that I know the process, I would like to now go back and review them,
Okay.
but now that I know the process.
Mhm.
Because before I read them, I'm like, I don't know
What
what
does
this
this
means,
mean?
right? So, I would not like to vote on it tonight, I'd like to
Mhm.
review it and maybe do it next Monday.
do we want to do it at the same time with the budget committee, or do we want to separate ourselves maybe after the meeting and talk about them? Does anybody have a preference?
Just hard for Jamie since she's in both, but she couldn't be in both places, so I don't know.
So currently our proposed budget and our updated budget would be those other factors that I said that we need to take care of. This is designed to exclude these items until they're approved. So, the budget the documentation that I provide on Monday would not include these items and unless you want us to deviate from that practice initially, because we didn't have these discussions before meeting with the budget committee as well.
People able to meet at 5, go through these before we meet with the budget committee? Not a chance.
I mean, you can meet, I can't be here, it's basketball season, so.
I can be there, yeah.
How do the two of you feel about being here a little bit earlier and just having a discussion about these?
Yeah, I can do it.
I think these things need to be discussed before we bring in the budget committee. I really. Maybe we canceled them on Monday because all of this stuff has to be approved or disapproved before they really even know what's going on.
I also don't want to delay them. They have a lot of work to do as well.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm not sure the benefit that they're going to take away from, because even if we approve it, it's not going to be in the paperwork that we're presenting to them on Monday. Nor is it in the paperwork that they're currently working on right now. I mean, we can have the meeting with them, but I don't want to frustrate them either. I don't want to call them out to a joint meeting to only tell them, here are only some of the numbers.
Do you have a suggestion? Do I have a suggestion? So, first of all, I did have a death in my family and the funeral is gonna be Monday. So, the possibility of me being here is pretty small. I would see it as, I think there's some really good suggestions here and comments about the budget committee. I think that it would be time well spent to have each of the people who wrote the justifications do a presentation to you. And that could be Monday. And then have you vote, have those things that you vote yes for included. And then have a budget committee meeting shortly thereafter with the board.
So maybe instead of them meeting us at 5:30, they can meet us at 7. Or 6:30 or whatever.
How many of these forms do we have inside that booklet?
Right.
No, I'm asking.
How many of the justification forms?
Good list.
Let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. that were-
So that's 9 presentations
Mhm,
with 9 discussions,
mhm.
which I'm not trying to be negative, but I'm
Oh,
not
no,
sure
no,
we're
no.
gonna get through 9 presentations, 9 full discussions within an hour in order to then turn around and present to the budget committee numbers that are not within our system, because you're not gonna be able to.
That's my concern, is there's no way I can generate the paperwork for that night. I can't meet with you guys and then meet with the budget committee the same night. and have everything reflected in paper.
So Misty's saying the next meeting with the budget committee is scheduled on the ninth.
Well, our
Or
next
town
school
meeting.
board meeting is scheduled for the
Meeting
ninth.
ninth.
Yeah.
So could we have a joint meeting on the ninth?
It doesn't
I think that makes more sense.
I think it does make more sense, but we have to also, what's the rest of the timeline? I mean,
You're running
we
out.
have to,
You're running out.
yeah, again,
We're behind, and it's, I don't think it's any fault of anybody's, it's, I just think we're behind the eight ball.
so can we add an additional meeting the first Monday in December
We have negotiations that night
at 4?
at 5:15.
Because Misty, when do we have to have when's our budget hearing to public?
January.
Mid-January?
Mhm.
Mid-ish,
January
right?
12th, I think. Let me just look real quick.
I mean, December 9th, we could do it, but it's tight. I mean, no different than any other year, but.
Can
I
we
mean,
do
you
that?
already have another joint meeting scheduled for January 8th. I know that's to finalize everything. And then your budget hearing is scheduled for the 15th, actually. So you do have time. You just need to build some more. I mean, generally speaking, we only have one meeting in December. It doesn't mean you have to have one meeting in December. You might just want to add another one to.
The good thing about this is I think the numbers that they currently are giving the budget committee are tight. I think they're solid numbers. I think it's way more advanced than what we have been able to give them in the past. So that's a benefit.
Mhm.
And then what we're looking at is 9 to 10 presentations, which could significantly increase, but the budget committee could work next Monday or whenever they meet, they could work on what they have now, the current numbers that are solid. And then when they come back, they should only have to look at whatever we approve. Do you know what I mean? They could do it in 2 meetings, just kind of like what we are.
Still meet, just not jointly. You can do your work, they can do their work,
Yeah.
and then you come back together potentially on the ninth.
Because if they even did the whole budget review of what the team is handing them currently, when they come back together, they're only going to have to really review the impact of whatever we approve on Monday. Or disapprove, because they should get the information for the disapproval as well.
Yes.
Right.
So,
I'm only hesitating because I know they are looking forward to this meeting and moving forward. And so I'm trying to not push them out to the 9th to do the joint meeting.
could Lori,
Mhm.
could we start with them and Lori do a similar presentation she did this evening? Lori, and well, Deb won't be here, but Lori did a similar presentation. Give them the info that she presented all of us tonight, and then they would leave. And we would then move on to the presentations.
I think it makes sense for us to look at these items separately after the joint meeting, simply because we all have what's in here now, and we can discuss what's in here because it's good information, and then we will bring more that needs to be added to the budget. And as long as part of the conversation is this is the process we've gone through, and this is what we're gonna be discussing that needs to be either added or verify that it's not going to be added. So does it make sense for us to talk about this at our next meeting, 2 meetings out? And plan those presentations?
I don't mean to look at you like that, but I'm lost.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was trying to wrap my brain around the
So
timeline.
if we meet next week with them,
Mhm.
what is Lori's role and what are we actually presenting to them?
So that will be the presentation of this whole budget to the budget committee as it sits right now. With the caveat that we have 9 other items to discuss and potentially add.
So
At the following
she
meeting.
could,
Or we could split, so just a thought is she could present to everybody. And then, I mean, we have 2 spaces here, we could, Brendan, I'm looking at you, could we potentially, I mean, both meetings are warned, but could we potentially split out? Have our meeting in there, they have their meeting in here. You can make some decisions as a board. And then you're prepared on the 9th to come back and make some decisions.
So they still wouldn't, that's, I guess, what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They wouldn't get any of the information about our discussion and our decisions until the 9th.
Right.
only that though, they'll get all of this other
Everything.
stuff before.
Everything.
So
So
only
it gives
between,
them the
Yes.
opportunity to go forward without
Right.
holding them back, which is exactly what I was hoping.
so between Monday and the 9th, they can work on that, and then at the 9th, they'll get the possibly $300,000 or $400,000 that they would have to look at, but it would be specifically looking. They're not gonna have to dig,
Right,
it's specifically.
with all the functions and codes
Adjustments.
available. Kevin?
My only question is, would it? That would mean those members would be, budget committee members would be excluded from the conversation or the presentations. They wouldn't be able to see those. If we're talking about doing those on the 25th, right? Okay,
With them,
after we've split, right,
having one presentation.
of this.
Yeah, but he's
But the
referring to the.
The justifications, but the after we split,
Mhm.
and they wouldn't be able to hear those conversations.
They'd be able to, if there's still public meetings. So theoretically.
They can watch it on tape.
Realistically, the budget committee is the third line here, so they're gonna have an opinion on it anyway, so does it matter if they all sit here and then we split off and have our own discussions?
No, I think you just need to make it clear to them that we're gonna present to them for 45 minutes or an hour and whatever. Cause you wanna give them a time frame and then just tell them, after that presentation, we have additional work to do as a board. You're more than welcome to stay to listen to those conversations, or you can utilize another room if you wanna begin your work. We could give them the option. And I do think that if any of them decide not to be part of those presentations and down the road that they would like to hear them, they will be recorded, so they can.
Yeah, I think what you're making clear to them is there's gonna be a presentation, these 9 presentations to the board. The board is gonna have discussion and vote on them. However, budget committee, you're welcome to watch, but your vote comes later.
Your vote or questions or discussion.
Comes later.
Yeah.
I think that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, the presentations are the work of the school board.
Okay, so do we want to begin with mine and then, move into the other 9?
Yes. Probably for process, we just need a clear. So that we can post appropriately.
Right.
If they plan on continuing a meeting or if what their plan is after we've included the bigger presentation so that we can. Keep them properly planned and. Warn them the way we do. Yeah, okay.
And you can invite the people presenting for that day. Thank you.
I would say that when you're inviting them, maybe let them know that their portion probably isn't gonna start until around 6:30. Just so if they would like to go say hi to their family or grab a bite to eat,
Yeah.
or maybe take a nap. I don't think the presentation should be overly long or
No.
overly in-depth, but.
No, we'll talk to them about just very abbreviated. And then if you have, I think where the link can come in is sometimes when you have questions. But certainly you can see them ahead of time, so.
And they're in our book.
So, instead of having a search tab, or to prepare for that, that page you showed previously that showed all the 9 different ones. Could you send that to us maybe with a link to which tab they're under so we can find them a little faster? It's,
So next year, this will be like page numbers on it too.
okay.
Am I correct though, if it's a request coming from Charlestown Middle School, it's under Charlestown Middle School tab? If it's coming from Walpole, it's under the Walpole tab.
Okay.
All right, so then, Brendan, can you get me back to my presentation? Sorry. All right, thank you. All right, so then, I was just gonna go into the timeline. My original plan had been to wait for additional guidance before giving you a new version. But I don't think that that is practical. We need to give you a new version, so when you arrive on the 25th, there will be copies for everybody of that updated version where we're gonna have the CTE information in there. We'll have the board stipends and the life insurance and all of that list. All of that will be factored in. It will not include the justifications. We'll have the revenue, we'll have the tax impact sheet at that time as well. And I'm gonna title it 1.3 because it's still our budget. And then when I have the board's budget, it'll be 2, and then, we can go from there. Let's see, I will also be providing, my presentation will also include the default budget at that time. So when we talked about eliminating, we have a teacher position and then we have 1.5 other positions to eliminate. Those will reduce our default calculation. Of course, other one-time things will reduce. If we're not in the union, our salaries or proposed salary isn't reflected in the default calculation. Benefits are, there's a contractual obligation. So it's, same old drill, but that'll be included in the presentation at that time. Okay. Anything else? I mean, and I would like feedback on the justification process. Again, it's an effort for transparency and I guess maybe to help document our thoughtfulness and how we're building the budget.
If I could just note, I noticed on that documentation from Sandra that it was back in September that it was put together. If we could have gotten that maybe earlier in the year and then gotten to this point, having already approved or disapproved where that is, it would be appreciated.
Okay. All right. All right, we already talked about, there were some questions. I think that most of Kevin's questions are going to be addressed in the 1.3. It was the talking about the ESL movement, insurance, stipends, things like that. And then I'll also be providing documentation explanation for the variances. And I explained the vacancy. Jenny had asked if there was a contingency plan for special education and English as a, second language. That's what ELL is, right? ELL and ESL are the same, right? So, sorry. So, because, they can fluctuate. Well, we have a trust for special ed. We do not have anything like that to help bolster English as a second language as needed. So those were her questions. And then the budget committee had some questions regarding transportation that we will have to get into at a later time. All right, so then I also wanted to make you aware of FEMA grants. There were several awards made this fall. The total benefit to the district is, just a little over 29,000, but when you parse it out over project and by building, none of them, exceed the, 20,000, threshold for the public hearing. So we felt that if we looked at them individually, that we didn't need a public hearing to accept it and, for people to move forward with their project. So that's where we're at with that. And then, I want to talk about, the DOE 25. The fact of the matter is that, we were short-staffed for 6 months last year, and we tried valiantly to, stay ahead of everything. And as I'm going through and trying to prepare these documents, I'm cleaning up as I go. We also had to do, catch up with our grants, and grant filing deadlines, had to be met. Lose money. There's been a lot going on, and I am working diligently on this, and, it is still, my deck is cleared this week. I'm like not revisiting budgeting until DOE is filed. That's where I'm at.
Will we likely be able to sign it next week?
I am hopeful that it is sent out electronically this week. It will not be tomorrow by any means, but I'm hoping that by the end of the week, I have it going out to for electronic signature.
Yes.
And as I'm doing that, I can also send the document to the state for review. So that's where I'm at. I'm very, well, I do want to let you know that as frustrated as everyone is, I am just as frustrated. I'm in that same camp. And I recognize the importance of this. And, while I know that last year I said that I was very hopeful, I have seen a lot of great things happening in our office and department within the last 4 months or so, and we are implementing processes and procedures, and I have somebody who's very proactive in working with staff, and I'm really excited about where we're going.
Any questions for Lori?
This is kind of off topic, but I got a tour of the Vilas Middle School a couple of weeks ago to try and get it to become an emergency shelter for the town. And one thing that I noticed was a tremendous amount of old equipment, old desks, old chairs, all this old stuff being stored there. And I was wondering if there's any way we can get rid of it so that there's more space for people to store things that will be of use to people, as opposed to a chair from 1945. Just curious, because I think Kevin mentioned something about, well, we're not supposed to get rid of stuff that taxpayers paid for, and I'm like, we do that in the town all the time. It's called municipal. We just throw it up on municipal. If nobody bids on it, it goes to the dump. If somebody bids on it, it's yours.
Could you share that site with me? I know we have a policy for disposal, but
Yeah,
I'm not sure that I've been approached.
but you know, I mean, the way the town works, it's old truck that's all broken down and we don't want to fix it anymore. We put it on municipal. Somebody bids $40 for it. Well, there you go. There's $40 for the taxpayers. Get rid of it, because we don't need it dripping oil all over.
Yeah.
But you know, stuff like that. It's a simple way to get rid of stuff, and then it covers you for like, oh gee, did we use grant money for that? You put it up for auction. You did your best to try and get some money back for it.
Yeah.
But I was just curious. Kevin didn't seem to know about municipal, and I'm like, that's how we get rid of stuff in town.
We have a policy that specifically states how we do that, so
Yeah.
not only will we get with Kevin about it, but
I
I'm
don't,
sure.
I don't want to throw him under the bus.
No,
It's just something that I
no,
noticed.
Not at all, not at all. It's district-wide, I
Yeah.
assure you.
I was thinking that maybe the other schools have this issue too.
I'm sure they do.
I think Charlestown might be in good shape.
Well, yeah, I mean, I
because of
saw
the
it.
Charlestown,
I saw a lot of junk when we toured
Yeah.
North Charlestown School, when they were getting ready to give that back to the Farwell Foundation, and it's like, why don't we keep that? I was just curious if there was a way to move that out, because I'm sure that storage space could be used for something a little bit more current.
Fine. I love him. All right, any other questions for Lori on the budget or financials? All right, fantastic. Then let's move on to new business. I will entertain a motion to accept the personnel list.
I'll make a motion.
Are there any questions? All in favor?
All right.
I should have said beforehand, the 3 people retiring with sadness because they're all excellent teachers and have given a lot to this district, so I'm sad to see them on the list. All right, moving on to the program of studies. Is there anyone to do any presentation on this?
She was going to come in online,
Okay,
so I'm
Sarah,
not sure she's there. Yeah.
we have Sarah Edmonds online to present the program of study.
Is she online?
She's online.
Oh, no.
Hello. Hey, everybody. Can you hear me? Okay. I can't hear you now. I wasn't able to unmute myself or chat. So that's why I didn't say anything. Also, Nate Beeson is online. He is the one who wrote the program of studies. So he can't unmute himself either. Can we make that happen?
Not you.
Yes, I can talk now.
Ah, there's Nate. Great. So were there specific questions? Did you have a chance to read the program of studies? We made a few changes here and there.
I can give a basic overview. It's a really simple year for the program of studies. There were very few changes, as Sarah said. The only course addition we're looking at is a yearbook and media studies communication-based course that we're looking to add to provide more elective options to students. And we feel like we can do that while maintaining a quality digital design program, since we made adjustments last year to that configuration. Other than that, there were changes to the dual enrollment courses we're offering based on the teachers that we currently have and any staff changes. But most of the pieces in there were some name updates. Pottery became ceramics with a teacher change. But mostly it was just updates to language versus updates to programming.
Yeah, Kevin McKee here. I'm a math teacher, so I have some questions about your math changes. It looks like you're removing geometry as a requirement for the 24 credit diploma and the 28 credit diploma. Was that discussed and approved by the math department?
Yeah, so we've lived in a system. Well, first off, New Hampshire doesn't require geometry as a requirement. The only math requirement, as you probably know, in New Hampshire is Algebra 1. As a practice in our school, that is only used, not using geometry is only used in specific circumstances. Often we run into that where students have transferred and have had struggles. Primarily though, most students are going through Algebra 1 and geometry, and math was involved in all of these conversations.
Did they approve it though? I'm saying this question, did they approve it?
Yes.
Okay, so, I did look at like the National Association of College Admissions and where they suggest that students take Algebra 1 and geometry to be prepared for college. So I'm just a little concerned that we're taking it away and making a class of students who may not have will have to do some back work in order to go to college. I'm less concerned about the 24 credit diploma versus the 28 credit diploma, because you've gotten rid of geometry and said you got to take any three math classes. But based on your prerequisites, that's impossible to do. So it's a false choice, because you have to take the only two classes you have that don't require geometry as a prerequisite are Algebra 1, which is required, math applications, and introduction to statistics. The rest of them, because they're a sequence, require geometry. So it's kind of a false choice to say you don't take geometry when you really do have to take geometry if you're on the 28 credit track. So I'd like for you all to review that and make sure that what I'm saying is correct, but looked it all over. My other question, there were some inconsistencies. Another talk about geometry. The reason I like geometry is because based on your course description, it is about logical reasoning and proofs. And they're probably not going to get proofs anywhere else until they get to calculus. So I think having students be able to do proofs is, even at that level that we teach in geometry these days, is still important to understand the stochastic process of how you look at something and create a sequence of steps to get there. So a couple of other inconsistencies, sports statistics and analysis on page 50, which has all the list of all the classes, only lists Algebra 1 as a prerequisite, but in the actual course description, it says Algebra 1 and geometry. So I'm not sure which one's incorrect, but one of them is not correct.
Okay, we can take a look at that.
Yeah, that one would be Algebra 1 and geometry. So I will correct that. Thank you.
So it's on page 50 that it would be incorrect then.
Yeah.
On page 29, let me look. I'm bringing up page 29. Okay, yeah. On page 29, computer applications has not been crossed off, but the course description was crossed off on page somewhere else, further down.
Yes, that course has been removed. We have moved to a digital portfolio. So that is unedited as well.
Appreciate you time to look at it at this level.
I just looked at the level of classes I'm interested in, so I didn't do the whole thing. And then on page 30/31, Microsoft Office Suites says the prerequisite's been crossed off, but on the next page it says description. It says completion of Computer 1 with a grade C or better. And I didn't know what Computer 1, I couldn't find Computer 1 and didn't know what that was.
So that is a running start course, and it's likely a course we won't be running next year. The way we look at scheduling, I imagine that, well, as a historical component, that was the teaching position that we removed. And depending on course requests and what's needed in the schedule, that course may be taught, but likely wouldn't be able to be taught. So that the Computer 1 course would be running start language, but ideally that was computer apps in our school. So students would potentially go into that course without that, if we were to offer it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, just actually the wording is confusing too, because it looks like a prerequisite the way it's worded, but it's not a prerequisite, and I just didn't understand why it was there.
Thank you. We'll look at that.
that and edit that. Thank you.
That was as far as I got.
I had one question that I would just like to understand. As I was looking through it, I noticed that all of the grade-based prerequisites are crossed out. Are we no longer having a grade-based requirement for moving on to the next level of a class?
So if we're in a competency-based system, if you have made competency, if you and received credit for that course, there should be no reason why you shouldn't move on to the next course.
Do you have any other questions? Shelley?
Can I ask a question? I don't know that this specifically has to do with the program of studies, but when we talk about we were talking about competency based. I just want to make sure that we are looking at various ways of being able to show competency, because I know that oftentimes what I have found in working in competency-based districts, that my students with special needs don't always show competency based on pencil and paper test, which is often the way that, or a specific essay, written essay. Are we making sure that based on IEP needs, that students with IEPs are able to show their meeting of the competencies?
Absolutely. So that comes into play with, student choice and differentiation, and there's multiple ways that students can show competency.
Fantastic. I just wanted to make sure that was addressed.
Oh yeah, that's one of the biggies. That's one of the big things we focus on, is how we meet students where they live.
Any other questions? Sarah? We need a motion from us to go forward with this. Anybody want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion to go forward with the draft programs for, I'm trying to read what this says.
25-26 program studies.
The program studies.
With the edits?
Making sure that the edits have been made, yeah.
And the edits that we're requesting get made as well. The edits that Kevin requested.
I'd like to see the edits before I approve anything. So, that's just me, but
Then would you like to move to put it on the next agenda instead of making a judgment?
Is there a timeline that students need this by, or?
When do you need approval by, Sarah? And
As soon as possible, because we need to start thinking about scheduling it, and talking to students about what they're going to need for next year or what they're interested in.
Typically, we're beginning the scheduling process at the beginning of January. So we try to print this by December or send it off to the prison for printing, so we have it in hand by then. We only order 100 copies, but that would be our timeline, ideally.
so we would have time at our next meeting and see it beforehand and just.
next meeting on Monday. Yeah, I mean, I would really like somebody to go through. I mean, Kevin brought up quite a few things, so then it questions me whether or not we should be going page by page through the changes, so. If they can get them done on Monday, I'd approve it.
Does that timeline work for you?
Yes, we can make those edits.
Okay, then we will look to review it next Monday. Thank you.
Can
So
I?
you want to withdraw?
I'll withdraw my, motion, which was terrible.
It was not, we're just.
What's the work in progress?
Sarah, yes.
So what day would you like it, need it by Friday so that you could have a chance to look at it before Monday?
Packet usually comes to us on Friday, so if you could get it to Misty prior to that, that would be appreciated.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. The next item on our new business is the unbudgeted site-based licensing.
This is a conversation that you had the last meeting, and you tabled it for this meeting. So it is, our request to cover $380 of the increase of
That's what the increase was, right? It went from 120 to 500.
500. That's right. It's covering the difference.
Right.
Could you remind me why we didn't approve it last time? What was the discussion? Like we went from 4 to 10 teachers to 14, now projected 4. Is that like the overall cost could possibly be the issue? Is that what it was?
It was, and we did look at it. You'll see a justification request as well. Because we're trying to, what we did is Misty and I sat with the list of teachers that it's going to affect, because it's really a 3-year process. And some teachers finish in a year. So the cost is greater, of course, and then some teachers finish over 3 years. So trying to predict what that looks like is kind of difficult. So we looked at it not only for this year, for now, what we feel we need, but we will bring a justification forward that is I think a pretty good prediction of what we'll need to help teachers complete this over their 3-year period.
So is it gonna be presented next week?
Right. However, for this, that would be for next year's budget. This is what we want to do to help now.
We have about 3 or 4 people in the pipeline at their beginning of plan phase. That this would impact right now. That doesn't include anybody that we might hire into positions the rest of the school year, but right now, you're talking maybe 3 or 4 people on that. Right,
So less
I'm
than,
having trouble hearing over here.
I'm sorry.
so it's less than $2,000 right now.
Yes.
Is there a very simple place in the budget to get that from at the moment?
Just so we can put it on the table and open it up for any real discussions, I make a motion to approve the site-based licensing plan. Increase fee of $380 per candidate. Did I say that right?
And one of the reasons it was tabled is because you asked us to talk to the union about it, and we did, and they said, thank you, we really appreciate that, we have no problem.
Okay, so I still make my motion.
Yes.
And I think I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. So knowing that the union is good with this forward motion, go ahead, Erin.
So, the recent election, is going to form my choices about making, additional, expenditures. Only because the president-elect just talked about getting rid of the Department of Education. And although those monies are appropriated by legislature, I think we'll eventually get those monies, but I think that process is going to be screwed up for a while if that department is. That's why I asked earlier, how much of our budget is coming from federal monies? You said about 2.3 million, probably have a third of that already.
Not for this year, no.
Okay, not this, not yet. Okay. So
because some of those actually span over 2 years.
Yeah.
So,
So it's just my concern that I don't want to, I'm very concerned about spending any additional money given this,
environment that we're in.
yeah, that we just don't know what's going to happen and how, I imagine, like I said, I think we're going to get the money eventually. But if that department went away, finding who's going to pay those monies, who's going to divvy them out, it's going to take a while and that could be screwed up. So I believe, we have a bunch of things to talk about today in terms of money. I believe in all of them, but I'm just concerned, this one's so small, I probably will vote for this one. But others, I probably will not, because I'm just worried about, putting us into a hole that we can't get out of because of some difficulties at the federal level.
No, I move the question.
Okay. All in favor? And so it moves. Thank you very much for bringing this to us. All right, we had admin reports in our packet. Does anybody have any questions for anybody?
I would like to thank the admin people who don't normally do reports, that did the reports. It's very nice to have them there. So I appreciate that. Yeah, the schools are very important, but having the other reports kind of pull everything together. So it was very nice. Thank you, everybody. But I had no questions.
All right, Joe, did you have something?
No, I would just concur with that. It was nice to see reports from some other departments that we don't normally see anything from.
For anybody not online, we just pass on that appreciation. Thank you. All right, then moving on to the 23-24 indicator 11 report.
So we occasionally have reports that come from the state. And in an effort to be open and transparent, we've included it. We certainly, when we get a report like this, we have conversation to see if there's, what is it that we can improve upon. I believe if I remember correctly, and I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me, but it had to do with IEPs. There were a couple of IEPs that needed to be corrected out of 59, I believe, which, here we go. Initial evaluations were 57. And so we had 2 that were out of compliance, still at 97%. I feel that Zandra, as the leader of the department, has her finger on that already. And I feel like it's a very good, solid report. Certainly we want to have 100%, but at the same time, we know that she has a finger on it, she has a pulse on it, and that will continue to improve. So again, you might not be used to seeing these kind of reports, but I really think that they're important for the board to see.
I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, it's very good to see those reports, and in terms of a 97% is for the number of students that y'all have, why that still is a pretty good report. Goshen's got 11 kids, so I expect 100%. There you go.
Yes.
Well, if you look at our case manager caseload,
Yeah,
Right.
97% is beyond pretty good.
Yeah.
And it clearly the state, says you're in non-compliance because you can get 100%, but it shows us the tier that we're in. And kudos to Xandra and her team.
I will pass that on as well.
Thank you.
So Kevin, teaching math as you do, Isn't this really 96% because it's 96.49% as opposed to if it was 50 or better?
Well, 49 rounds up to 5.
Well, yeah, but now you're getting into that gray area.
We'll say 96.5% is still,
Yes, so thank you for bringing that to us.
I was just confused by the letter itself, nothing but our number, but you still get this letter even if you're at 100%, because
Yes.
universal still is 95 to 100%.
Yeah,
You still get this letter no matter what.
pretty much, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, you get the letter no matter what,
we're still in number one.
for all the, for all the
Yeah.
for all the indicators, and there's quite a few of them you get a letter.
And the letter indicates that there is that they're giving us something that we have to, may I see the letter?
We can participate in a webinar if we would like. But basically, we should just self-monitor ourselves and do better.
Okay, so
That's what I took away from that.
Yes, that's.
my question is actually just regarding the written finding of non-compliance. Is there any ramification to that, or it's just here, this is what we found and you can do better? Okay,
Right.
that's it. Clarify that. All right, thank you. Then let's move on to the treasurer's report.
It's floating around somewhere.
It's right here.
Does anybody have any questions, or would anybody like to?
make a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Seconded.
All in favor?
All right.
Perfect, thank you. And at this time, we have 3 non-publics for personnel. Oh. So can I have a motion to move into non-public?
So
Is
second.
it on the left?
Where's the cover page?
Is it on the left?
Did Sarah make a motion? She did, didn't she?
I'll take
I
it.
thought Sarah made a motion.
I think she was asking that.
I'll make a motion to go into non-public
For personnel.
for whatever you said.
Okay. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Back.
I make a motion to increase the director retirement percentage for the 3 individuals discussed.
Do you have an amount?
$26,842.28,
A percentage.
10%,
Two for
35 to 45.
35 to 45.
Or 25 to 35.
Oh, does somebody fit in that category? Okay.
Or 25 to
So
35.
just 10.
Listen, I got us to first base.
You did well.
I'll second her motion, whatever it was.
It was, by 10%, yeah.
By
To
10%,
increase the
okay,
director
yeah.
retirement.
Yes,
Do you want to take a roll call, or do you want?
you want to do private ballot?
No, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Motion passes. All right, on the second.
I can't make the motion because I'm not going to vote for it, so I can't make a motion and not vote.
Could you read the motion? I'll be happy to make.
Oh, hold on, I got one different than that, because I'm gonna make the motion that we do the salary adjustments for the principals immediately.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Make a motion to come out, I make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for an excellent meeting.